do you love to play with your kids? Do you understand how important play is to your child's development? Do you find it difficult to actually just get on the floor and like really immerse yourself in what they're doing? Is it challenging because you never had that done to you? Are they begging you to play more and more and more with them? Well, we understand that play sometimes can be challenging in this busy world of ours. We've got so many things in our heads and so many distractions going on. But today we have a fantastic guest who is a registered play therapist, and she's going to tell you about why play is so essential to raising little humans well and why they want to do it so badly with you. And by the time you're finished, you'll have clear, direct steps on how to start playing with your kids today. And you're going to know why you're doing it and how important it is for your relationship. And it is an essential part of this parenting journey. So hope you join us on this discussion. I know you're going to walk away with some fantastic knowledge about how to better connect and better understand your children through the power of play.
Welcome to the Art of Raising Humans.
The Art of Raising Humans is a podcast designed to support, equip, and encourage parents on how to create long-lasting, deeply connected relationships with their kids that's free from fear and shame. Come join us on the journey. Hello, and welcome to The Art of Raising Humans. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we've got a special guest talking about a topic that I think lots of times is misunderstood, And so
or just not known about.
Yes.
People haven't heard of, maybe they've kind of heard about it. They just
Yeah.
don't really know, what does this even mean?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's like they've heard this is important, but I think lots of times they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So,
or it's
right?
like, just go do that and
That's
come
right,
back later.
that's right, yes. They don't understand the power of it. Let's
so
say
what
that.
are we talking about here?
Okay, sorry, I'll get to it. Okay, so today our special guest is Haley Williams, and she is a licensed clinical social worker, and she's also a registered play therapist, which that's actually kind of unique, right?
Yes, there's
Okay.
not a whole lot of
Yes,
them out there.
yes. So we want to say welcome,
pretty
Haley.
cool.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell us, what in your mind is a play therapist? I know we hear a lot of counselors say, I do play therapy, but what's really cool about you is that you're almost finished with that official, certification to become one. So what is a registered play therapist?
Yeah, so a registered play therapist is somebody who has put in about 2 years of postgraduate school work on play therapy. So that includes like continuing education hours and supervision hours and practice in the field with children using play therapy. And so again, the process takes about 2 years it really just helps to prepare clinicians to know what they're doing with kids.
Yeah.
And,
You understand the power of play. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and something that's exciting about Haley is not only is she going to tell us about the power of play and how to do that better with our kids and the importance of doing it, but also Haley's joining us at the Art of Raising Humans. So Haley's coming on board with the private practice in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm really excited about Haley being on board. So anybody who's listening to this in Tulsa, we're now going to have a registered play therapist who really loves working with kids as young as like 4, right? Haley, like 4 on up to like 4 to 12, that kind of elementary age, and isn't just going to do play therapy. It actually knows how to use play therapy to help kids better manage their emotions, better, talk through conflicts in their lives and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, because you guys were talking about play therapy, and you sort of touched on it, but what is play therapy?
Yeah, so play therapy is an evidence-based intervention that is what is really developmentally appropriate for children, right? Like one of the founders of play therapy says that play is the language of children and toys are their words, which is, kind of an interesting phrase. But what we know about children is that that's how they communicate, right? Like oftentimes, our kids don't come home, like say they went to the doctor and had to get shots, like they don't come home and say, Mom, like, that was really scary. Like, I felt really out of control and I didn't know why I had to have the shots. And I didn't like that experience, right? Like, they come home or, at the doctor's office and they're screaming and they're crying, right? They don't necessarily have the vocabulary to share those feelings and those like anxieties that they have. But what they might do is they might go home and grab their doctor's kit and start kind of playing out like, oh, I'm going to be the doctor and my stuffed animal is going to be the patient and we're going to kind of play this out. And that's how they process and work through things instead of like adults where we would go talk to a friend or go talk to a therapist, right? Like kiddos just don't do that as often as we would, like them to. So this is a way for us to kind of engage in a child's inner world in a way that they understand in the way that they communicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I am a huge fan of play therapy. I love play therapy, and I love the way that so much our little kiddos, we see it, they come home from school and they're all grumpy, or you can just tell sometimes like what is off with you right now. And you'll even check in with them and you'll say, hey, how was your day? Or you might even just really say, you seem kind of upset, what's wrong? And they struggle, and it's so you can see the struggle in them to figure out how to tell you what's going on. But you see it in their behavior, you see it in their actions, or you see where they're just pushing their siblings or all this stuff going on. And I just love the power of play therapy because it gives them an avenue where their brain can't form the words to tell you what's going on. Yeah. But I love what you were saying about how it just gives them pathways to be able to get all that angst that's inside, all the stress, the sadness, the fears, the whatever it might be from a doctor's visit, from a school day, that they can come and get all that out. And I want to highlight what I love, the training that you've been through. I mean, I know a lot of that, and it's a lot. And you learn those pathways to help that child be able to do that. You give them ways to be able to get all that stuff that's inside outside. Yeah. Because once it's out, you can do something with it and guide it and help them heal or whatever it might, all the needs they might have. You're able to do that. And so I would like to hear a little bit more about you highlighted this is the language for children. Why do kids need play? Yeah. Right? They need play and it's they need essential. Play. Yeah. It's vital. Yeah. And so I would love to hear more about just do kids need to play every day, or how important is play? What does play mean for children? Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So there's so many benefits of play for children. And I think when you go back into early childhood research, like you will find that everywhere. Everyone agrees, like play is a big deal. It's important. There's actually a book called The Therapeutic Powers of Play, and it outlines like 20 different core agents of change that are helpful to children in like cognitive development and creative expression and all kinds of areas, social skills. I mean, and I think for us as parents, one of the significant ways that play is important is that it can foster connection between us and our kids in a way that like they can communicate. I think often as parents, our kid comes home from school and we want to ask questions and we want to know everything. Well, kiddos don't always respond the best to that, right? Like they might if you start asking questions, they might start feeling a little defensive. They might clam up. They might say, I don't know, or they might just make something up, depending on how old they are. But play is a way that we can engage with them in a way that they communicate and they understand. So taking that intentional time to sit with them and play with them can just be so beneficial to not only our connection with them, but also just our communication.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm thinking of, there were times, Haley, where our kids would reveal stuff to us through their play that we never would have known. Like I remember there was this babysitter. She was a great babysitter for our kids, but we early on knew we did not want to spank our kids, and so that was never something our kids saw, or so we thought. But then the lady who was watching our kids, one of the other families had told her, "Hey, if our kids get out of line, you can spank them." And so we came to find that out through play. One day Abby was grabbing a doll and she starts spanking this doll, and we were like, what is happening? Where is she getting this from? And that's where I remember that being a key moment of like, oh, this is what Sarah's been talking about. This whole idea of play being the way my daughter is communicating to me about something she's seeing that I think she doesn't know what to do with it. And so then she was playing it out with her dolls, and now we knew. And so we had a conversation of like, oh, I didn't even know that was happening, because obviously the babysitter didn't tell us that. They're like, these other families allow me to spank. I know you guys don't want that, but they do. But through this, now we knew better what was happening in her environment in a way she probably never could have told us. She was like 2, right? So it was like, it'd been really hard for her to speak that.
Well, it created a way for us to be able to talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So now my mind goes, okay, so what if I'm a parent and my kid's just doing some terrible thing? They're just bashing their dolls or their trucks.
Gosh, right.
if I see my child do something in play, does that mean that's happening in their real world? Or what do I take from that, when I see them play? What does that mean?
Fantastic question. So this is like really common, right? So, because I think it's alarming when we see our kiddos play out, like whether it's like somebody shooting someone or there's death, or, we're like, oh no, like, where did that come from? I think it's really important in play therapy not to make assumptions. And I think that's, a huge reason why play therapists require so much training. It's because it would be really easy to go into a play therapist session and say like, oh, they undressed the baby doll. That means the child is being sexually abused or something like that. We don't want to do that, right? Like we don't want to make those assumptions. So I think that, just being curious about like, I wonder why they might be playing that out. I know that my 3 and 5-year-old play out a lot of death scenes with their Barbies. And
because you're watching horror movies all the time.
Oh my goodness. So what I realized is like, think about the Disney movies that they're watching. Like there's a lot of parents that die in these movies. And that's a lot for their little minds to process, And so I think that for them personally, like that's their way of like kind of dealing with that, like emotions and the heaviness that comes from watching those movies, or hearing about death is like to play it out. I don't think they have any homicidal tendencies. I think we're fine.
Hopefully not.
But it does, it does kind of give me a clue of like the things that they in their inner world are struggling with and are processing.
So it's a window into what they might be processing or going, but it's not necessarily a television replaying everything that's happened in their life, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I love
Absolutely.
that you clarify that. Okay. So then I think, all right, if I'm a parent and I know that play is important, and you said it's a great way to connect with my child, but I didn't even play much as a kid, or I don't know how to play with my kids. So this sounds great. I believe you. Play is important, and I believe it's a great way to connect, but I don't know how to play. Do you have any tips, any ideas for parents out there who might be very open to it, just don't know where to begin?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that play can seem kind of foreign to adults because as we get older, we stop playing.
Yeah.
We focus on efficiency and getting things done and taking care of responsibilities, and play takes a back burner, or it might seem like something that is not important. But for children, we know it's essential, right? So I would suggest for parents to set aside time, whether it's every day or a few times a week, to just play with their child without distractions.
Mm.
So that means like not having their cell phone and, not doing laundry or not
Yeah.
folding laundry, not doing dishes, or even having the TV on. That can be a big distraction,
Yep.
but just sitting down with your child. And I always recommend just letting it be child led. So letting your child choose the activity and choose the toy. And I think that that can kind of alleviate some anxiety for parents of like, you don't have to have like the greatest character voices of all time to like play with your child, right? Like you can just like let them tell you what to do. And you can even say like, okay, what would this character say now? Like, what do I do? And I think the more you do it, the easier it gets. So, just making that time intentional, intentional playtime with your child. And then, yeah, letting them lead. And that's going to
Yeah.
mean so much to your kid
Yeah.
that you're willing to, that communicates to them that they're important and that they're valuable and that you want to connect with them in a way that they understand and not like they're just a grown up, right?
I think, Haley, that was always the hardest part for me is I knew play was important. I understood conceptually the power of it. And I would watch how Sarah seemed to be so much more creative than me when she did it, but also how Sarah was much better at just letting the kids lead. I'm naturally not a follower. So I have a mindset that I naturally want to lead in the most situation I'm at. And I don't mind following if I think the person I'm following knows what they're doing. But then when it came to play, it was really hard to be like, no, they do know what they're doing. They do. What my kid is doing right now is actually what they are intended to do. As they don't constantly need me to guide them. But I almost found, Haley, to be honest with you, it was like tiring. Like play lots of times was exhausting because my brain kept wanting to lead. And I had to keep going, no, Kyle, just like put that aside, let them lead. If you want to raise kids who know how to lead, then you need to show them how to follow, right? By doing that. It really does. You teach them how to do that. And so I found that was actually the most difficult thing for me is just putting myself aside like that and really just putting myself in their world for a little bit. And of course, when I did it, it was so rewarding. But initially, I always felt, and I'm sure many listeners can relate to this, there was this resistance to it because I didn't grow up. Like my parents definitely did stuff with us, but it was mostly sports related. It was like I went out and played tennis with my dad or kicked the soccer ball. It was typically him saying, let's go do this or let's watch this movie or but it wasn't, I'd say probably 9 times out of 10, ever us getting on the floor and playing. And, typically I just played by myself. And so I think that was a real challenge. I think a lot of listeners, a lot of parents that we coach, they say like, I don't know how to do this, So I think for me, I can relate to what you're saying that if I put everything aside and really just try to like be totally present, it was always hard, still today is, but always rewarding once I did it.
Yeah. Well, and I think just, as parents, like approaching it with curiosity instead of judgment, right?
Yeah.
So this is not the time to teach lessons necessarily, I mean, I'm sure things will come out, but like this is not a time where you're lecturing, where you're teaching. This is a time where you're just being curious about your child and what's going on in their mind. And so and helping like reflect it back to them. So if they're playing really angrily, saying like, you seem angry right now, tell me about what's going on.
Yeah.
And just having that curious lens, I think, is like the key.
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, because you do feel a little concerned if my child's playing and I see that they have one character who's being really mean to the other character or something. You want to be like, oh, well, you should make sure you tell that
Yes.
toy to be
Yes.
nice to the other toy,
Yes.
right? Because you think,
Yeah.
what if I don't do that?
I
Then I'm
know.
teaching my kid that that's okay. And this is a moment where you feel that pressure as a parent that you should come in and fix whatever's going on, whatever belief or action the child's doing, and you wonder, is it okay to just participate
Yeah.
and to watch this?
Yes.
Right.
I
Yeah.
love
And I
your
think
point there.
what I would suggest in that particular instance is, instead of saying like, "Oh, we need to be nice," which is like our natural instinct, I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
parents,
That's right.
um, would be to like kind of explore that. Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder why that doll is feeling angry, and I wonder,
Yeah.
or not even labeling the feeling, but like, I
Yeah.
wonder
Yeah.
what that doll is feeling.
Yes. Yeah.
How could, and
Yeah.
trying to, that's what's going to develop the
Yeah.
empathy in our
Yeah.
kids, is, helping them explore those feelings, and that curiosity.
Well, even when you do that, Haley, what it does, it also helps the kid reflect and kind of think, oh yeah, what is it? What is it that this character is doing? Because they may just be doing it and they haven't even been thinking about it. So even if your curiosity helps them be curious about themselves too and their actions that they're taking. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that, where as parents, if we can, just step out for a moment, just move into curiosity and take the pressure off. And all you need to do is be present and be curious and trust that your child is playing and exploring and processing. And that's really, really hard, but in some ways it's really freeing too. We can just become childlike and enjoy the play and be with them in the moment and realize it's doing such beautiful things whenever we're able to do that.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you're feeling the pressure of being the parent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What is the goal eventually, would you say, when you're doing play therapy with kids? What is the eventual goal that you're trying to get to? Like, I think a lot of listeners probably have taken their kids to therapists or counselors, especially if they're elementary age, and that therapist will say, yeah, we're going to do some play therapy. What is the goal that the parent should be, or maybe some questions they should be asking, or things that they should be looking for of why are we doing play therapy? How is that eventually going to lead to somewhere positive?
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on, the issue that the child is coming in for, because play therapy has really a wide range of different problems and issues that it has evidence base for. Um, but I like, some of them would be like anxiety, depression, if a
Yeah.
child's having like behavioral issues or anger, or even like divorce and trauma,
Yeah.
things like that. So I guess what I would ask the therapist is like, yeah, like, how will play therapy help with this
Yeah.
issue? And I think making sure that you have a therapist that is either an RPT, a registered play therapist, or is becoming one, and that knows like the ways to utilize play in a way that's therapeutic, because I think that um, sometimes like therapists will play a game with a child or something like that, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing play therapy.
Yes.
And so I think the key is you want somebody that's trained to respond to a child in a way that facilitates change. So it's not just play, right? It's play plus all this theory and knowledge that the clinician brings in.
It's actually going somewhere.
Yes.
It's different than what a parent at home would just be playing to understand and connect. A play therapist is using play to go a certain direction with the child, to help the child and for whatever goals or whatever the child is needing.
Yeah.
Well, if you could, Haley, if a parent is listening right now, and I know, like I said, I was kind of this parent where if I'm listening right now, I'm going, okay, you sold me. I get it. Okay, play is important. I want to do more of it. I know I keep hearing that, but I don't really understand how to start that. So if they today, if they listen to the podcast and like, okay, I want to make this a bigger part of my relationship with my kid, what 2, 3 steps would you say start doing this today? And you'll really start seeing the power of the play.
Yeah. So I would say set aside about 10 to 15 minutes a day with your child, free from distractions. As we talked about earlier, no
Yeah.
cell phone, no
Yes.
chores. Yeah. And just focus on your child for those 10 to 15 minutes. Let them lead the play.
Yep.
Be curious. And just be consistent. I think that
Yes.
that's a huge
Yeah.
part as well.
Yeah.
Is your child is going to respond the best if you are consistent, and if you say, "I'm going to play with you for 10 to 15 minutes," that you do, because your child is going to look forward to that time, and it's going to
Yeah.
be really important to them. And so making it a priority and making sure that it's something that is like high on your list for your
Yeah.
child.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 2 quick follow-up questions. What ages does this apply to? And what if my kid says they want to play video games? Or, I mean, is there
Good.
certain
Yeah.
kinds of things they have to play or,
Yeah.
or that we play?
Great.
How open do I let that be?
Yeah, great question. So the first question for ages, play therapy is being utilized across the lifespan. So, there's even clinicians that use it with like the geriatric population, which I absolutely love. But for children, I think like the sweet spot is about 3 years old to about 12 years old. And, depends on the kiddo, of course. Some 12-year-olds may be like, no, I'm going to talk to a therapist about my feelings and,
That's right. Yes.
no,
Yeah.
I don't want to play.
Yeah.
But some, may still very much be engaged in the play. So it depends on the child, but I think that's a good age range. And then the video games question is great because I think playing video games with your child is great. That's great. But I think for the purposes of play therapy, it's not going to achieve the goal that we have here, right? I'm going to kind of compare it to like watching TV with your child, or like kind of like you said, like going out and playing a sport. Like that's great. Or practicing a sport. It's like that's great, and it is a form of play. But what we're looking for here is really unstructured play that your child can lead. And now if they're like, I don't know, I think the sports one can be a little iffy, but it's like if you're, if you're practicing if they play baseball and you're practicing for baseball, like that's not play. That's, that has very goal oriented. It's very much like trying to get better for a certain goal. The play that we're looking for here is going to be unstructured and, not necessarily like you're not necessarily achieving a goal or getting a product, right? So, I think even art can be a great play activity, but art to sell something or to, show off, so like that is not what we're looking for. It needs to be just self-expression for the fun of it, for the, I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally
does.
does.
Yeah, no, that's really
You said it great.
helpful.
Well, because what I heard you say, and just kind of wrapping up that thought is, the video game stuff, it's not bad to play that with your kids or go play. Those are ways to connect for sure. But when you're using play in a particular way to not only connect, but really be able to get in your kids' world and really understand them better. And you're creating a different level of connection, a different level of intimacy with your kid. And the hope is through that, the kid feels felt by you. The kid feels understood by you. Where those other ones, like you said, you are moving towards a particular goal and you're just trying to achieve that. So self-expression is more limited. in those kind of, scenarios, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, good. Well, I hope the audience, I hope everyone listening has really expanded your understanding of play, what it looks like, what it could look like. I know for everybody listening, some of you it's easier than others, but I want to encourage every one of you to do what Haley's saying, to prioritize play with your kid, because it really is that quote you used at the beginning. Could you say that one more time, Haley, just so we can end with that?
Yeah, play is the language of children and toys are their words.
And I love that.
Like
Yeah.
Gary Landreth.
Yeah, and you're wanting to know their language, you're wanting to hear their words, and the earlier you do this, the more the kid will grow accustomed to being able to not only talk with you through play, but talk with you eventually when they just want to do it with their words, right? And I think a lot of people who haven't played in those early years, when it starts to become teenage years, and they're like, why won't they talk to me? Well, lots of times they haven't, because you weren't getting into their world. They actually literally don't know how to talk to you about this, because we haven't done that. It feels so weird and awkward to sit down and chat with you about these problems because we just haven't been doing it, And I think that's a mistake that lots of us, we wait till then, which you want to do all that groundwork initially. So by then, when things are getting really serious, you have this way of communicating. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we want to thank you for being on, Haley, sharing your expertise with us. So excited for you to come on board with Art of Raising Humans. And once again, if you have any kids that are in the Tulsa area and you're thinking, man, we've been looking for a play therapist, especially, one that really is steeped in the knowledge of how to use play therapy to help our kid, then definitely reach out to us. If you have any questions about it, email me at Kyle@artofraisinghumans. And we can definitely connect you with Haley if you're interested in that, or knowing more about it, or setting up an appointment with her in any way. We would love to facilitate that. So thank you for your time, Haley.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And thank you to all the listeners who are taking time today to learn more about how to deepen your relationship with your kid. So have a great day. The Art of Raising Humans podcast should not be considered or used as counseling, but for educational purposes only.